It seems more schools are having an unexpectedly violent return to in-person learning this year. About a month ago now, we saw Henninger High School closed or sending students home early on multiple occasions. At the same time, fights were breaking out. Tonight, we hear from another Syracuse area school with a troubling trend. Vanessa Rizzitano has more.
We've been following the chaos at Henninger High School since students went back to the classroom last month. But violence isn't just happening there. Fights are also breaking out at Corcoran High School. Imara Davis, who is a senior, tells me a number of fights have happened on school grounds since the beginning of the school year. She said fights seem to be among the freshman class, and the pandemic could be partially to blame.
For the kids who are freshmen here, I feel like they're more the ones who are getting into the fights because they weren't in school for the past 2 years due to COVID. So now that they're in with all these people and all this socialness, I feel like there's more fights breaking out because they haven't seen each other.
Imara is part of an accelerated education program. She says she feels safe in her area of the school because fights tend to not break out where she is.
The kids who are not in IB, I feel like they're not as mature, so maybe that's part of the reason why there's so many fights in that area.
She goes on to reference Henninger, saying she wouldn't feel comfortable attending school there.
Hearing about Henninger and all the fights and people are bringing weapons to school, it's very troubling and I wouldn't feel safe going there.
Syracuse Mayor Ben Walsh addressing the violence at Henninger in a debate last week. He says police should not be the ones handling the behavioral issues. It should be up to the school.
We need teachers with sufficient training, and we have incredible teachers in our district. We need sentries. We need social workers to address the behavioral problems.
Imara believes the school should be more involved in making efforts to prevent fights from happening.
I feel like if they had more talks with us and they were more intervene with us, then maybe there would be less fights and people would be more understanding of the school.
In the news tonight, hospitals are busy and paramedics are starting to get worried. 3 out of 4 Syracuse hospitals are diverting patients to other hospitals. Patients in need of critical care are being taken to hospitals outside of Onondaga County, many of them miles away: Auburn, Cortland, Oswego, to name a few. Tonight, there's new plans in place for EMS workers to help keep people safe. The plan allows patients to be transported to Syracuse hospitals on a rotating basis, even if all 4 of them are on diversion. Our Samantha Croston breaks down this plan.
Initially, if all 4 Syracuse hospitals were put on diversion at the same time, the idea was to take those patients to outlying facilities such as Cortland or Auburn. But with a new plan that was put in place last night, that is no longer the case.
For weeks, paramedics have been preparing for the worst-case scenario. All 4 Syracuse hospitals going on diversion at the same time.
Diversion is designed to be a temporary relief from a large patient load or approaching an unsafe level. The problem we see here these days, it's becoming less temporary and more frequent.
But last night, a new plan was released by the New York State Department of Health for if and when all 4 hospitals are on diversion. Instead of taking patients to hospitals outside of Syracuse, a forced rotation will be implemented, which means Syracuse hospitals will be available on a rotating basis. Regional EMS Council member Tyler Kaminsky says this is better for Onondaga ambulances and patients.
They'll be able to stay here in Syracuse. Their transport time will be shorter. Our facilities are, for the most part, comprehensive, and they will be able to see their doctor in the emergency department faster than if we were to transport outside the county.
Kaminsky says pre-pandemic, it was normal for hospitals to be on diversion once or twice a week.
Now it's more common to find a hospital on diversion than off diversion, depending on the facility. I have never seen anything like it in my 10 years working out here. Folks working longer than me repeat the same thing.
Kaminsky says the reasons for the increased diversions are many, but they all lead back to the same commonality: not having enough workers in the healthcare field.
Long-term solution has to be to increase hospital staffing, increase nursing home staffing, and increase EMS staffing as well. We simply don't have enough people to help everyone in the time frame that they deserve.
And even with the more frequent diversions in Syracuse hospitals and the staffing shortages, Kaminsky says that anytime you call an ambulance for help, they'll be there.
Joining us this Sunday morning is Sergeant Matthew Malinowski from the Syracuse Police Department. Good morning, Sergeant Malinowski.
Good morning. Happy to be here as always.
Thank you for joining us. We have a lot of questions for you from viewers this week. The first one deals with schools. What do you think about the violence in high schools lately? What can I do as a grandparent to make them safer?
I think we can all remember high school. Kids are definitely mean to each other at that age. And I really think it's sitting them down and having a conversation, not to, be too soft here, but, we need to definitely kind of be a little bit kinder to each other. And I think that kids need to know, like, making fun of other students, picking on them for things that they can't improve, that can have some severe consequences. So I think it's really important to make sure we're teaching our youth to be decent human beings to each other. And I do think that they need to be reminded of it. I just remember when I was a kid riding the school bus or going to school, kids were brutal, and they probably still are now. And that's probably those fights that result from that as well. I also know that there's just a lot of things that go on social media. A lot of these fights start that way. They engage with each other online, and then when they see each other in person, they take it out. So really monitoring your kids' social media, make sure that you know what they're doing. That's the biggest thing we always say, know what your kids are doing. But you can probably stop this beforehand if you're on top of it and you see that your kids are engaging in some sort of dispute.
And you have another hard and tough question this week. The election is less than a month away, and this week, both challengers said that they would remove Chief Buckner from his position. How would this impact the department? I want you to hear from the two challengers this morning.
There's a serious dysfunction inside the police department that has to be rectified, and it starts at the top.
Given that he's been here now, I still would not retain Chief Buckner. I would hire someone, hopefully from within the department.
I think the chief, like any leader, he's done a good job with a lot of things. I think there's some things that he definitely could do better, and he would even admit that. But we continue to improve overall and try to move the ball down the field. I think one of the two biggest things that I at least like that he does, and that's only my experience up here, is with our community engagement, the public relations through the social media stuff, and our transparency. We make a really big effort to try to connect with our community. I know he encourages the officers, if and when possible, between calls to get out and interact with the youth, whether that's playing basketball, the ice cream giveaways, the police athletic league we've started. That's the one thing that I definitely like about it. And the transparency has been big on. Obviously, we've been doing this show now for over 2.5 years with you, really trying to answer all the media's questions the best we can. But the next chief, whoever that may be, or mayor, they're going to be dealing with some significant challenges when it comes to staffing and morale. Those two things are, we're in a staffing crisis. We're definitely the lowest that we've ever been. And one of the most telling numbers, if we have time, that I have here is the civil service test, the people who just sign up to take the test to become police officers. This last round, only 144 people signed up. When you compare that to other years past, that number's been as high as anywhere from 300 to 500 people will sign up in the fall or spring to take the test. So significant problem, because we don't even have the people that are signing up to even want to do the job.
Thank you for answering that question so thoroughly. I really appreciate your transparency on that very hot and very hard question.
Well, hopefully I didn't offend anyone, but you never know.
Now it's time for your tip of the week.
A big announcement through the Syracuse Police Athletic League. They're going to have a winter basketball league coming up. The biggest thing on this one, and you can find it on our social media pages, the info, is we're going to need a lot of help, whether it's coaching, volunteers, and to really bring this whole project together. So even if you're not a police officer, you're a community member, a business owner, if there's any way that you want to help, you can either get in touch with me. There's this number on the flyer I can get you in touch with, but we're going to need a whole community effort to make this program successful. And we would invite anyone that wants to partake and help us build those relationships with our community to sign up.